Join David and Ross as they become discombobulated in Dorset. From pixies to poltergeists, witches to woodrows, hear them explore the legends, folklore and outright weirdness of their own county. This is Dark Dorset, the podcast of weird horses.
Hello, I'm Ross in Dorchester.
I'm David in Wareham.
And on this episode of Dark Dorset, we visited the 9 stones, or the Devil's 9 stones, or the 9 ladies, or Lady Williams and her dog, which are all the same name for a stone circle near Winterbourne Abbas. That's correct, isn't it? Yes.
I think so.
Yeah, which is near Dorchester, which is near me. It's a stone circle, and I must have driven past hundreds of times, and within how many minutes of my home would you say? 10 minutes?
10 minutes?
Yeah.
Easy. I've driven down that. It's right next to the A35, like right next to the A35. There's a tiny little stream ditch that we managed to jump across.
Yes.
Sadly, you didn't fall in when I was filming you.
Well, we had to jump across it because the access to the road has been
blocked.
Has been blocked by
totally blocked.
They're doing some kind of works on the field.
Yeah, the parking permission's been taken away, and the permitted footpath has been excavated, and we risked our lives walking 200-300 metres along the very busy A35, running across the road blindly, jumping a ditch, nearly impaling ourselves on the railings, and landing in a patch of wild garlic that smelt heavenly.
Yes, and on Easter, was it Easter?
I think it was Easter. It might have been Easter Sunday. We tried to go very early in the morning so that we got pocket points from our families, and there wasn't so much traffic on our death challenge to get there. We
was worried that there might be some kind of druidic ceremony.
We were hoping. But one of the footnotes we read about this place is that a small druid group often meet there, and they have complained that locals hide in the woods shouting abuse at them, which we certainly weren't going to do if we saw the druids.
No, not at all. I would love to meet a druid. Every episode I say to myself, before I start, I will mention the beer I'm drinking, and then I completely forget to mention the beer I'm drinking. So maybe it's something I need to just give up on as an element of the.
Maybe you're drinking too much beer, and that's why you forget.
Maybe that's what it is. But I'm going to mention my beer at this point. My local beer for today is from Thorncombe, which is we've been to Thorncombe. That's where we saw we
went to the woods.
Well, we didn't see it, but we heard a woodrose bellowing at us whilst looking for the ghost of a centurion. That is a sentence. A year ago, before we started that podcast, we would never been able to say.
No.
Well, it must be nearly a year now, because it was this similar type of weather when we went to
No. I don't think so. I think it was in the summer.
Okay. Well, we're coming to it.
But we're getting there.
This is a beer from Thorncombe. The brewery is called the Sadborough Estate Yard.
Sad bro. You're my sad bro.
Oh, I'm not sad. So I'm trying to work out what this beer is called. Like, can you see the label if I hold it up? Is it reversed?
Freedom Hiker.
Okay, but is that the name of the beer, or is that the name of the
Guile 59?
Yeah,
I think Guile 59 surely is the brewery.
The brewery, Freedom Hiker, a natural, unfined beer which may appear hazy or cloudy. There we go. It was brewed especially for the Tolpuddle Pilgrimage, a 10-day walking festival of social change and a tramp through the great tradition. He walked from Plymouth Harbour to the Tolpuddle Master Festival in 2014. It's nice.
Good.
The beer is
good.
Nice.
Good. I'm glad beer is nice.
3.7%.
Yeah, that's a hiking beer.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about having beer, but I've just gone with Guinness Clear.
Guinness.
H2O.
Aquavita.
I burnt my candle completely at both ends into the middle
Okay.
at the weekend, 2 days in a row.
Okay.
What
are you trying to do to yourself after the last time you guys went out drinking recently? I was sent photographs that looked like the end of
that was a hell of a weekend. So we went. We decided we were persuaded to go to the pub for a couple of quick beers on Friday straight after work because
were you persuaded by the people you were hammering on their door shouting, "No. Can we go to the pub?"
No. My friend runs the pub, and he'd got this beer that he's been talking about for years and years and years. I've had it once when I was on a canoeing expedition, and I know it's nice, but he thinks it's the best in the world. Mm. And he was sending me photos all afternoon of this barrel that had arrived, and he'd put it out the back, and it settled, and he tapped it.
Is that the equivalent of a Wareham dick pic?
I think, yeah. Richard Pick, I love him. So we went down for a couple, which it was just really nice going to the pub, isn't it? You meet people and stuff, and they had a tiny pianist playing pub tunes. Cool blimey. It's really lovely. So we had a third, and then Kaz met some friends that secretly bought her a beer. So that was another, and then we tried to go home, and someone stopped us and bought us a beer. And then
it was Monday.
I got some very strange photos on my phone of things we were trying to do. Don't remember coming home, but I do remember. Do you remember Kaz and myself falling over? And I'm not sure about it entirely. I tried to get my phone out of my pocket to call an ambulance at one point, and was too drunk to do anything to unlock it. But then Caroline came round. I think she might have just been asleep.
Or is this the same? Is this the same?
It's the same night.
Same night. Okay.
And then,
is this for the sake of the listeners? You're telling us this one?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. You just point a microphone at me and I talk.
Yeah. Okay.
Like a performing.
I was just worried that you were doing this every weekend. That you was calling an ambulance.
No, it's the same one.
Oh, it's the same one.
Yeah, Kaz ended up with a big black eye, and I think it was when she was taking her boots off and fell on the kitchen floor.
Yeah. Or it was some aggressive teabagging going on.
But that weekend, I also had to wait for 2 ambulances when neighbours had falls and hit their heads. So it was So it was my turn this weekend, and no heads were hurt, and no ambulances were called.
So you take it in terms of who's going to pass out? Is that what goes on?
Not intentionally. I was drinking, so I don't have a beer today, but I was drinking some beautiful rum at the weekend. Mermaid Gin Distillery on the Isle of Wight. They make a spiced ginger rum, and it's much nicer than the price. It's very smooth. You can drink it neat, or you can drink it with ginger beer. We were drinking Dark and Smokies, I think they're called. Should we get back on subject? You can edit all that out.
No, I quite like it. I think it's a bit of flavour. People like to get to know their hosts.
How old are these stones, Ross?
These stones are old. From the archaeologists believe they were lightly erected. I like to be not lightly erected. In the Bronze Age, apparently, they reckon that people went from building barrows and building
earthwork enclosures. Yeah. In kind of Neolithic kind of times, and then they moved to kind of stones and circles.
And what I read was that they think that the stone circles weren't visited as much. They were almost, whatever evidence they got is that people used to frequent the wooden ones, but they would leave the stone ones to be almost sacredly apart. Yeah, and maybe they were saying maybe this could be that.
Well, I get that, because there's not many marks or visual wear and tear on these stone circles. But equally, you don't know if there were any on the wood, because the wood would have rotted out.
But there must have been other things they could see, like, I don't know, maybe more stuff being dropped and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think what I read was that they felt like maybe the wooden circles were about the living and life, whereas the stone circles were about like the dead. Or the deities. But something I read, which is quite interesting, was that this particular stone circle, it's only a small circle. It's
less than 10 metres across, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah, which is quite small. And also the stones are all at different sizes, aren't they?
Yes. So there's 2 bigger stones, and they're like much bigger. They're as tall as we were. As tall as you are. So, and they're in the northwest I was going to say corner of the circle. They're in the northwest kind of part of the circle. And interestingly, they're opposite. They stand opposite the two smallest stones in the circle. And that kind of configuration of the two taller stones is more like stone circles found in Scotland, whereas actually the size of this stone circle and the makeup of the rocks is far more like circles you'd find on Dartmoor and Exmoor.
Yes, interesting. But also they were saying that there's some other like tombs nearby which are very similar to some tombs they found in Scotland as well. So they think there might be some kind of link between the people who are in Scotland and down here in Dorset. One of the things which I was listening to on a podcast recently, and they were saying that the idea of like people in the past not travelling around is completely wrong. And they said even they were particularly talking about Vikings at the time, but they were just saying, and before that, people moved around a lot more than we kind of like to believe, and it could be possible that some, Scottish group of people came down to Dorset or vice versa.
I think the most interesting thing about this stone circle, or the most interesting things, one is its size. It's really quite small, isn't it? It's no wonder we've driven past it so many times and just seen the railings. It's kind of 10 meters. It was 9 something meters across. It's also in a very small valley. The road goes down the bottom of the valley, and the side of the valley is covered with trees. So again, it's quite secluded. But there's one stone in particular, isn't there, that a tree has grown up behind, and as the tree's got bigger, it's grown around the stone.
Yeah, it's a beech tree, isn't it?
Yeah, and now this tree must be, because we both stood on the top, so I'd say it was at least 1.5 meters diameter.
We should say it's been cut. It's been cut down since.
It's fallen and then been trimmed, hasn't it? So that stone's been there like hundreds of years before this tree.
Yeah.
During the life of the tree, and will stay there as the tree stump kind of rots away around it. It was just amazing.
Yeah, and I was trying to look at the rings. We said that tree must have been at least a couple of 100 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw like an engraving of from like the 1700s, and there was no tree then. There's a chance, I suppose, it could be 300 years old, that tree.
Was there a 10th stone on the engraving you saw?
No,
there is a space in the circle, and some archaeologists have suggested there may have been a 10th stone at one point,
or that was the entrance. They were saying that potentially that could have been an entranceway, but apparently just up the road there was like
You're pointing, Ross.
Sorry. Just up the road there was another fallen standing stone, which is was it like 3 meters high or something?
Yes.
And then it fell down. And it was just by the road, and it was just getting damaged and knocked out.
And I think that stone is on the way to where these rocks might have come from. So they're Sarsen stones. They've got a lot of flint in them, haven't they? And they could be from just over the hill that was on the left, down into the Valley of the Stones. There's a little kind of mine down there.
But did you look at why it's called a Sarsen stone?
No.
Sarsen comes from Saracen stone, which links to Muslims who are Saracens, and essentially it's like it's just a word that means non-Christian, and it's because they were used in circles, stone circles, and they were seen as being non-Christian or pagan, and then that stone got called that.
Yeah,
but we were saying it looks like concrete, doesn't it?
It does.
But they were saying, I was reading about them as well, that's saying that it was made during the post-glacial stone, so it would have been after the ice age of like just basically all crap being pushed along by the glacier.
Oh, and the melt, yeah.
Yeah, and then basically making natural concrete and mashing it all together.
I had flashbacks of geography lessons then.
Yeah. See, I somehow managed to get all the way through school. I think maybe
just full stop, Ross. Full stop there.
That was an amazing thing. But I think I had like 2 geography lessons the whole time. Somehow, and
could you not map read your way to the classroom?
I had a tendency of just maybe going to lunch when I wasn't meant to, or going to other people's classes. I didn't really pay attention much growing up. So I really want to go to Lisbon and Copenhagen, because those are the only 2 geography lessons I ever had, and they were about those two cities. And I think, okay. But it feels like my kids do way more geography than I ever did.
They probably do way more lessons than you ever did.
There's like a supernatural sort of element to these stones, isn't there?
Yeah, the kind of folklore element.
Did you read about the UFOs?
I did read a story in 1985.
Yeah,
January 1985.
You read it in 1985 with the story.
yeah. And if I remember back then, I was wearing acid pink and blue turquoise 80s socks. There was a breakdown truck. Is this the one?
Yeah.
There was a breakdown truck towing a car along the A35. And
this podcast should be just called the A35 podcast, because everything we talk about is like near or in relationship to the A35. But sorry, David.
That's okay. So there's the breakdown truck towing a car. As they come past the 9 stones, the engine cuts out on the tow truck and the lights fail on both vehicles. And some people say it was the stones, some people say it was a ley line, and some people blaming it on some UFO sightings at the time.
Yeah, because they had lost time as well, because when they got home, their clocks on their vehicles and their watches were half an hour out from when from the clocks at home, and they had half an hour lost time. So potentially they were abducted.
Could have been.
I've never said the word abducted that way before. Abducted. This is the free.
I lost time on the A35. I think that was just the Bridport Cider Festival.
We did have got a man who was desperately trying to get us to give him a lift, didn't we, when we was up there?
Yes.
Yeah, and he clocked our t-shirts and was just like, I thought he was looking at my boobs for ages. But he clocked our. We are that sad that we go out on our little Dark Dorset t-shirts and we go and visit these places. He reckoned that his motorbike had broken down and he needed help. But
and we walked very quickly after that, didn't we? We ran back.
That's nice, men. We should say that one of our listeners posted pictures of this stone circle, and he doesn't live anywhere near here, but he passed it and took some pictures of it, and he mentioned the A35 which on his tweet, and that's why I said, well, we know the A35. And that's why we found it. So thank you very much. I'm sorry, I can't remember which one of our listeners it was. One of the 5. But thank you very much for pointing that one out to us.
I've got some dates here for some folklore things that aren't very interesting. Okay. But I'm going to say them anyway. Okay,
and we've also got to talk about...
Have you got your book of interesting place names?
Well, yes, I have got my book of interesting place names.
I can help you with the first bit because I know what a Winterbourne is. A Winterbourne is a stream that dries up in the summer.
There we go. Well, it's not in my book. An abbas must be something to do with an abbey, mustn't it?
Mm.
Okay, because it's on its way to...
And there's a church there.
There's an abbey. It's on its way to, what's it called? Where it's got the swannery. Abbotsbury.
We're on fire tonight.
Yeah, we are. So, but that's interesting.
So in 1908, there's records of it being called the Nine Ladies and the Devil's Nine Stones. In 1941, there is a very hazy story about it still being called the Devil Stones, and there are hints that there were sacrifices made there, although no proof. In 1966, a local man claimed that the stones were the devil, his wife, and his kids.
His kids or the devil's kids?
And his kids. I think it was his kids with his wife, or maybe the devil had some kids with his wife. But either way, he probably murdered his wife and kids and hid their bodies and tried to get around it that way. And in 1965, there's a lady saying that she remembers her father. Every time he went past there, he would take his hat off and bow it to the stones. Yeah.
I'm glad someone wrote that down.
Yeah, and the last one I found is in the 1970s. The local rumour were that the stones were children that had been turned to stone for playing 5 stones on a Sunday.
Did you look at what 5 stones were?
5 stones is like scatterjacks. Do you remember those tiny little metal crosses? Yeah. And you had to bounce a ball, didn't you, or throw something in the air and pick so many up?
I remember it's a game my dad tried to teach us and say this was a fun thing. It's the same with like marbles.
I think it's like the Victorians pushing a hoop along with a stick. Yeah. They're just waiting for fun things to be invented.
It's the same way us trying to teach our kids to play like Mario Brothers 3 or something. It's just like, this is shit. Did you get any? I didn't get any vibes So we last week we was talking about Knowlton Church and
Knowlton.
which I loved going there, and that's one of the first places I've been on our Dorset travels. I felt a little bit hippie and a little bit like, oh, there's a bit of magic going on here.
It certainly felt at ease and peaceful, didn't it? And special. Whereas
went here and it was just like, oh.
I think it was because it was enclosed, and the busy A35 probably didn't help. But at Knowlton, you can see the horizon everywhere around, and it is it's just the wildlife and the birds and the sense of surrounding and peace. It was just a lovely morning there as well, wasn't it?
Whereas the cars just bombing past. It was like early on a Sunday morning, and it was still traffic just non-stop buzzing past.
It's fascinating how these rocks could have been there for, since 3000 BCE.
Yeah,
and they'll be there after that road's gone.
Hopefully, I hope so, because there was records of 9 stone circles in Dorset. It's not a very popular county for the stone circles. Apparently, there were 9, but some of them have been destroyed since or dismantled.
Yeah.
So hopefully they will stay. But there's another one near Dorchester, like in the woods, which looks quite cool. We should maybe go and find that one at some point. But also, it's in a valley again, which is apparently quite unusual for stone circles, for them to be, not up on top of a hill where people can see it. This is sort of like hidden away.
Yeah, you think about that first one we went to and went to the Barrows to hear the fairies.
Yes. It was
and
right on top of the hills.
Right on top of the hill, you could see that for miles and miles around. And it'd be interesting to know if it was hidden away when it was first built. But presumably that would probably even more hidden away, because that kind of valley would have been probably heavily wooded.
Mm-hmm. But they were saying like some of the bigger stones was like, how much are they? 8 tons, they reckon. The amount of effort to move those things down there, they must have really wanted them to be there. There must have been a significant reason for it.
Yeah. But, the biggest stone is what, 1 meter 8, 1 meter 9, 2 meters tall, and that's the biggest by far. It's nothing on the scale of Stonehenge, is it? It's much more. It's almost like a little kind of seats for a picnic around a fire.
Yeah. But I think I will, if when the parking's back, I think I will stop there with the kids and go and have another look at it.
Sacrifice them.
Yeah. Oh, there was the thing that I've read this lots of times about lots of stone circles, that it's impossible to count them, because a lot of there's a lot of folklore is that you can't count the stones, and there's only 9 stones there. But just because I knew you couldn't count them, I had a bit of trouble counting them. No, it was just, I think I was just like psyching myself out a little bit, like saying, of course I can count them. There's only 9 of them. And I had to count them twice in order to...
Yeah. It's because of your 12 Dorset webbed fingers. Yeah. That's what was happening.
When it's accessible, you don't have to go far off of the road.
It's very difficult to get to at the minute, for sure.
But I would go there again.
Excellent. Me too. No, I wouldn't. Yeah. Have we talked about the film we watched?
Oh.
At the cinema?
No, we haven't. Do you want to talk about Ennis Men?
I can't really remember much of it.
Penis Men?
I can't remember much of it. It was really good, but it was kind of... Yeah, it was an art film. It
was very long. I was warned by my friend John, who I should point out is a one of the hosts on one of my other podcasts I do. So I'm going to quickly plug 2 other podcasts I do as well while I'm here. General Witchfinders podcast about horror movies, old horror movies like Hammer Horror and stuff like that. And I've just started a new podcast with my friend Lisa, where we're reading Frankenstein, the Mary Shelley novel, and we're reading it 1 chapter at a time.
To each other, like an audiobook?
Well, no, we read it and then we talk about each chapter.
Okay.
And then that one's called Frankenstein Dissected. So we talk about each of the chapters and then we have a topic. We talk about Mary Shelley's mother, who was a very early an important feminist writer. And then the second one, we talk about her father, who's William Godstone. See, I can't remember any of their fucking names, and all the way through the podcast, I get their names wrong as well.
I'm still trying to get over the fact that you've used one of our very earliest business ideas for a podcast.
What was that?
Do you remember we were going to do a food takeaway service van selling German hot dogs and beers.
Yeah, Frankenstein's.
And Frankfurters and Steins of beer. Frankenstein's.
Mm-hmm.
It's a killer. And we were going to dress up in fancy dress.
I still do it. We should have a Frankenstein's, just a Frankenstein weekend. Just do that. We could do it. Let's find out. We'll do it the anniversary of Mary Shelley being born or dying or something like that. And we just do that as a Frankenstein night. Let's do it. But yeah, so that's a new podcast. So listen to those. But why was I talking about the podcast, David?
You were talking about that because we both subscribe to Fortean Times magazine, and we saw a write-up of Ennis Men, and then I saw it advertised as being in my local cinema for one night only. And you said your friend John
said when you go into it, don't expect any kind of plot. It's an art installation rather than a film. So I think that helped us.
I think it was a bit better than that synopsis, to be honest. It takes a long time, but it all comes good in the end.
Enjoyed the first quarter. Second quarter, I thought this is going on for fucking ages. Third quarter, I was like, I'm starting to get back into this again now. Last quarter, this is going on for fucking ages. It was almost I was just going through like this waves of like.
I'm not with you on the first quarter. I was like, what the hell is going on here? What the hell?
But I think I would only watch it in the cinema because I would be super distracted and turn it off or do something else if I was watching it at home. I think it was beautifully shot.
Yes.
It covers a lot of the sort of things I'm interested in, but at a glacial pace.
There are some good, very clever references here and there. It was nice.
But I want to watch Bait, which is his first film, which I think's got a bit more of a narrative to it.
Yeah.
Ennis Men. I don't know. I don't know if I'd recommend it to anyone.
Oh, out of 10. You're the film buff.
Yeah.
Out of 10.
Out of 10.
Recommend it to me out of 10. Because I think you have to know the person you're recommending it to. Because
for you,
yeah.
I probably wouldn't recommend it to you. I don't think.
Oh.
Well, you feel offended by that?
Not as offended as most things you say to me.
Oh no!
If I was going to recommend it to you, I'd probably say 6.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll say 4.
I think it has a strong ending.
No, I would say 4 to anyone.
And you like some really weird shit. Yeah,
but I like. That's not just you, David. To anyone, I would say it's a 4. It looks good, but
it does look good.
And when we talked about the story afterwards, it's like we kind of worked out what was going on. So that's quite a good story, but I think I would have put it across a bit better.
So we decamped to the pub afterwards, didn't we? No surprise. And if I remember correctly, you really liked the highlight for you was the jumper that the lady was wearing.
Yeah.
The highlight for Caroline was this see-through red cagoule straight out of the 70s.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to find it online ever since. There is a beautiful lino print on the wall in one of the scenes with these skulls in the ground, and it's it's really strong.
But we did tweet. I did tweet about the jumper, and the writer-director did talk to me about what the jumper was. And then David was quite rude to him, not realising who he was.
I wasn't rude to him. I was rude about the jumper.
and then tried to ask him about the lino print, and he didn't.
Unfollow.
Yeah, he didn't respond. So that was Ennis Men. Yeah. Okay. You got a little extra film review of this episode.
Not a very good one. You need to subscribe to your other podcast for good film reviews.
Good film. Well, yeah, I think we
good reviews about good films.
Well, bad reviews about bad films mostly, but. Okay, lovely.
Not natural. Excellent. We should put a date in the diary, Ross, for our next visit.
Yes.
Somewhere.
Okay, well, let's say goodbye and then talk about that now. Okay, so until next time, happy day.
Cheery byes.
If you knows of any weirdness you'd like to share with Dave and Ross, you can tell them by email at darkdorset@gmail.com or talks to them on Twitter @darkdorset. Well, until next time, stay discombobulated. Stay discombobulated.
Are you wearing a moustache tonight?
Yeah.
Just for our little meeting?
I had a feeling you was wearing like pastel pink and light blue trimming on your top.
No, well, see, what happened is that today I seem to be getting holes in lots of my socks all at the same time. This is fascinating, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've decided not to throw out whole pairs to just a whole individual one with the one with a hole in.
Yeah.
So when I was looking for socks this morning in the magic cupboard, where my socks appear after I throw them on the floor, I managed to find. Now these aren't. My brother would describe these as a pair of different coloured socks. So, see, I have one turquoise sock, and one pink sock.
All right,
Can't get my foot up into the camera. It's quite difficult at my age. And then I saw this when I got home, and then I saw this fleece lying there, and I thought, that's amazing. I've colour coordinated it back into the 80s colours.
Yeah,
this is great. So.
Well, if only I got a jacket for every sock combination I could possibly must. Do you find
every sock combination and every decade?
Yeah, but I find like if I have socks and they will fade at different speeds, like there will be a pair of socks, but then one of them will change colour quicker than the other, and then they would slowly change size.
Yes,
it's like one of them is like existing in a different time, sort of like one of them's time traveling at a different speed than the other one.
Yeah. Well, when we're at the next sketch crawl, which is next month, you must corner Brandon after a couple of beers and get him to tell you his black sock story.
Okay.
I won't give anything away.
Is it his black sock story?
Yeah, it only comes out a couple of times.
Yeah.
He bought 10 pairs of black socks thinking it wouldn't matter if he didn't pair them with the original ones they came together with.
Mm-hmm.
He'd just choose 2 from the 10 any day of the week.
Mm.
But he lost some and some faded. And he actually found it more difficult than buying 10 individually different pairs of socks.
Yeah. So have you spoiled his story, or does it get more exciting than that?
No, it's a little more exciting in places.
Yeah. It's just a variety of different shades of charcoal.
Yeah. It's also fascinating how enthusiastic Brandon gets about socks.
Mm-hmm. Well, we will have to wind him up and let him go.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was a little bit of an added sock bonus for the end of the episode.